Tonight on Saltiness Isn't Bliss, I've got a recipe you won't want to miss. Tonight I am making maple pecan chicken. So we're going to start with 1 tablespoon of oil. Any oil will do. I'm using olive oil. I'm going to pour that in there, turn our burner on to medium-high. Let that heat up for just a minute, and I also always like to spread the oil around the pan evenly. So I've got 10 boneless chicken tenderloins here. So that's about 1 pound to 1.25 pounds, which is what we want for this recipe. And I'll be right back when the oil warms up. All right, so our 1 tablespoon of oil is all heated up. I'm going to gently place my 10 tenderloins into the oil there. In the meantime, while my chicken is browning on both sides, I'm going to start preparing the ingredients that will go into the skillet once the chicken is brown. So we're going to start with 2 tablespoons of water. I've measured that out. I'm going to pour it into a little Dixie cup. These are great to just kind of have all your ingredients prepared and on the side. I do need to reuse my measuring cup. That's why I'm going to reserve that over there. I want to measure out 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Put that aside. Okay, so now's the time to flip our chicken over to the other side. So first I'm going to pull the pan off of the hot burner. That will stop the oil from wanting to splatter out when you take the lid off. So you just kind of listen to it. You'll hear it cooking and splattering really strong on the lid. As you pull it off the heat, it will start to die down. So that's when you can take that lid off. And then I'm just going to use a flat metal spatula. Kind of get underneath each one, flip it over. You should see a nice little browned, there we go, a little browned edge, whoops, to the chicken. So we want to flip each piece, and we're going to put the lid back on, brown the other side for another 2 minutes, and then I'll be right back. All right, guys, so my chicken is browned on both sides, just like before. We're going to pull it off the heat, give it a moment to simmer down. Take the lid off. Now we're going to completely remove the chicken from the skillet, and that's the time when we're going to add in some more ingredients in the skillet, get those cooking in there before we add our chicken back in. So I've washed the plate that the raw chicken was on, so I don't contaminate it at all because now it's cooked, and I'm going to just put it right back on that plate. I'm going to take the lid off. I'm going to scoop them right onto the plate like that. And as soon as I'm done doing that, we will move on to our next step. So we're going to reserve our plate of chicken off to the side. Put our skillet back on the heat. To that, we are going to add our 2 tablespoons of water and our 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. We're going to bring those to a boil. As soon as they boil, which is pretty much right away because our burner was very hot, we're going to add in a whole can of cream of mushroom soup, so that's 10.5 ounces. I do try to find the healthy version of this soup because if you can find the healthy version, it will cut down on the sodium content a lot. I'm just going to take a whisk. I'm going to whisk that soup in. I don't know where that went. As best I can, and just kind of blend that water, apple cider vinegar, and soup. And then we've got one more ingredient we want to add, and that is our maple syrup. So there's what that looks like without the syrup. And now I'm going to measure out my syrups. So that's 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. For right now, you want that to continue to have a gentle boil. And I'm just going to use my whisk, again, whisk, fork, spoon, mix that in there. I'm going to turn it down to medium-low. So that looks pretty good. So our whisk did a pretty good job of scraping up all the browned pieces that were on the bottom of the skillet. You can always use like the flat metal spatula, the end of a spoon, and just go back and forth just to make sure you got it all up. because we want all that included in our sauce that we're making here. And now comes the time that we want to add the chicken right back in. So just lay that in there. Take a little ladle, or you can use a spoon. I've got a spoon right here. And I'll just kind of scoop up a little bit of that sauce and lay it over the top of the chicken, just so the flavor really gets embedded in there. So we are going to simmer our chicken for about 5 minutes. And there is one last ingredient we need to prep, and that is our pecans that are going to go right on top of the chicken once it comes out. So I've got the burner on low. I'm going to put the lid back on, just let that simmer. All right, so last ingredient of our tasty recipe tonight is pecans. So I go with the pecan halves. This is how many I've put in the bag, which is about a 1/4 cup. But I go with the pecan halves. You can usually find these in the baking section of the store. They are completely salt-free, so that is a big plus. And so what I've done is I've reserved about a 1/4 cup here in a Ziploc. I have sealed the top, and then I'm just going to use the smooth side of a meat tenderizer here, and I'm going to crush those up into smaller pieces. If you prefer to keep them whole, you can do that. I just, the recipe works better when they're smaller, because then you can just kind of sprinkle them over the top of the chicken. So you're going to crush them up so they look something like that, and then just reserve them on the side, because we will use them at the very end once we plate our chicken. All right, so our maple pecan chicken is all done in the skillet. I will plate that in just a moment. In the meantime, on the side, I've made some extra fine green beans that were frozen, and then just pop them into boiling water. Just want to share with you the seasoning I put on those. So I drizzle some olive oil, sprinkle in some dried minced garlic. You could always go with fresh garlic if you prefer. And then I top that with some cracked rainbow peppercorn. Any pepper you use and have on hand will work. Give it a little mix in there. Kind of see all the seasoning on there. Take the lid off my chicken, which looks delicious. All right, so we're gonna scoop a couple of these out of here. You can always use whatever you're scooping with to drizzle some of that sauce on top, just like that. Move those off the heat. And now we're going to sprinkle our chopped pecans on there. How delicious that looks. And then I'm going to get a scoop of green beans as well. And there it is. Maple pecan chicken with some olive oil, garlic, peppered green beans on the side. But thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.